Iranian politics analyst. Good evening.
Good evening, Lucy.
Thank you very much for coming. And also Ali Waked, i24 news analyst. Good evening.
Good evening.
And Tom Harb is also joining us right now via Skype, Chairman, American Middle East Coalition for Democracy. Tom, we will just start with you in just a short while. But Meir, I want to ask you, was that the response that the United States expected after the sanctions that it suggested, or this is something that the Iranians are just sending as a warning sign?
No, I think this would have happened under any government. I mean, the ship entered the Iranian waters, of course, by accident. They had a problem. I think we have to ask the question, why didn't this evolve into a crisis? Because it could have easily got into a crisis. The hardliners would have loved to use this, some kind of muscle flexing to isolate Rouhani at home. But why didn't they do it? Because we're so close to the end of the implementation phase of the nuclear agreement and lifting of the sanctions. There's a euphoria right now in Iran, and the hardliners don't want to be the ones who stop it. And we see the euphoria from two key indications today. Number one, there was a crisis with the US. Instead of losing value, the rial gained value against the dollar. And again, on a day like this, when you expect the Tehran Stock Exchange to tank, it actually shot up by 700 points. Really? Everybody's so excited about the sanctions. This is the end. We can literally touch the end of the sanctions period. And it seems that this was a very strong argument against those who wanted to turn this into a crisis.
I'm watching these images and I'm watching these footage, and this is really problematic for the United States. Seeing American sailors, seeing Americans being detained in Iraq, this is something that maybe even the United States doesn't want to be seen in this specific time.
Absolutely, but the hardliners, they had to pay a price for this. They had to pay a price for the nuclear agreements, not something they wanted. They had to accept it. And it seems today that the Supreme Leader didn't want a new crisis just as the sanctions are about to end. So what do? They try to milk it for all they can get. So the pictures of American sailors on their knees with their hands on their head is something that the hardliners can use. And also they're telling lies also for domestic purposes. They say that they released the sailors after America apologized and said this would never happen again. America didn't apologize.
Yes, of course, America didn't apologize. Tom Harb, you are joining us again via Skype. Good evening again.
Good evening.
So, Tom, you're seeing these images and you're thinking to yourself, what exactly?
Well, we don't have the full report yet. Were they really in an Iranian water or they are not? This is based on what the State Department or the American administration is telling the public, or the Iranian government is telling the public. Under normal scenario, when there is no tension among the parties in the region, usually you go ahead and send some warning to the vessels, to the other vessels, tell them to pull out. So why did the Iranian took the measure they did and arrested the sailors? That's a big question. And are they testing the American public? Are they testing the American coming up election? Are they testing the American administration? All of these, under the regime in Iran, they are doing all above. Now, the American position, or the American administration position, is like they are in a honeymoon period now with the Iranian regime for the next 10 months. Both government, they know they still have 10 months to play these games and stay in the honeymoon stage. But the honeymoon is going to be over in 10 months. If the Democratic Party over here win the election, then we know for the next 4 years is going to be the same platform. They are going to go under the same guidelines we already have in place. If the Republican Party wins the election, all the top candidates, they already said, because President Obama signed the deal as an executive order, they are going to strike it out and eliminate it from the first day they are in office. The honeymoon will be over. So all of this still, we are going to be playing the whole thing for the next 10 months. How much they are going to get, how much the Iranians are going to get by lifting the sanctions, how much money they are going to be getting. They are in a speed motion now to be as aggressive as possible in the region before the whole thing collapsed by November 2016.
I'm thinking to myself, if these soldiers were hurt, in a case that they would have hurt these soldiers, what would the reactions from the United States be? Because let's say the accord, the nuclear accord between the P5+1 and Iran does not include hurting American soldiers or trying to hurt some American vessels. So canceling this accord about looking or something that can happen in this, when we're seeing these images, this is so they can do it again in the future.
They are going to keep doing it, and they have done it before. And whatever, even if these sailors were injured, I don't think the administration would have taken any severe step toward the government of Iran other than lip service. That's the only thing they would have done, because this administration is trying to sell this deal at any expense, because they are waiting after this administration is out of office and what kind of cut deals they are going to have here and there on these corporate on these corporations that are going to be doing business in Iran.
Yeah, Tom, Harb, thank you very much for this. You want to answer?
What would Netanyahu have done? Now, our prime minister seems the exact opposite of Mr. Obama. What would he have done? Start a war with Iran? What would he have done?
You see, but we are assuming that they did not enter the territorial sea of Iran. They did enter the territorial sea of Iran. Iran had all the rights to do whatever it found necessary to do in order to investigate how did these sailors and their vessels went into the Iranian territory. And we are ignoring this. Now, the behavior of the Iranian is something to discuss, but they have all the right to investigate, to see what were the reasons that brought these teams into their territorial sea.
Although if we're seeing from what we're seeing, the pictures that are coming out of there, you know, they're feeding them, they're putting this, it seems like they're going to...
and I was a little bit jealous when I saw them eating the Iranian food.
All that's missing is the hookah and the tea.
Yeah,
but, you know,
it looks like they're in an iftar dinner.
I have to say that once the sanctions are lifted, if we face a new situation, I don't think the Iranians are going to be as let's just say, flexible as today. Why? Because the sanctions, in a way, are a great enabler for President Rouhani to push the hardliners away. Because he could say, look, you want me to lift the sanctions? Then it's my way. You don't want it my way? I wish you and sanctions a very long life together. And they don't want it. But once sanctions are lifted, Rouhani is going to lose an important leverage, which he used to push the hardliners away. And I think Iran could actually become, if a similar situation arises, I don't think he would have as much room. Therefore, Iran won't be as flexible as it is today.
I don't think he will lose his credibility, at least until November 2016, because I believe that in the American campaign, the Iranian deal will be on the table of the at least of the Republican candidate, and this is why the Iranian will play the game, in my opinion, according to Rouhani music and not to the hardliners, because they know that every step that might be interpreted, analyzed by the American as not honorating, not respecting the agreement, can be a hot issue in the American campaign.
We just heard that
test with the ballistic missiles, Ali. They're really trying to they're really trying to push the envelope.
But there is now a certain administration. In 2016, we are not sure whether it is going to be Hillary or somebody else from the Republican Party.
Exactly. In this point, I want to ask you, Meir, how much they are following the American presidential campaign, because there might have problems if, let's say, not a Democratic candidate will be elected at the end of the day, and if a Republican president will take the place.
Let me put the entire argument presented here on its head. The Iranians are more scared of Obama than they would be of a Republican president. Why? Because they mention this. They say the reason why the Soviet Union fell apart was because it repaired relations with the United States, because it was more amenable to the United States and it wanted to improve relations with the United States. For the Iranian regime, having a president in the United States who wants to reach out to Iran is far more dangerous than a president who threatens Iran or wants to take a tough line against Iran.
Because of what is creating inside Iran, the
exactly, and this is you see, in Iran, the revolution of '79 wasn't a religious revolution. It was more a social revolution of a new class has come to power, a new revolutionary class of the religious traditionalists. They don't want to lose their status. And how do they keep it? by challenging the United States. Once the sanctions are removed, I think they're going to probably be more aggressive.
I remember the images of, I think it was after the first meeting that a deal was supposed to be signed, and before the talks in Vienna, the recent talks in Vienna. I remember that we sat here and we saw in Iran people with the pictures of Barack Obama being the maybe savior of Iran. So again,
the Iranian regime is scared of Kentucky Fried Chicken. One Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant in Tehran, a fake one with a Turkish license, opened, and they freaked out. Why? Because it was bringing too much American culture into the people of into Iran, and the people of Iran might have a positive view of the United States. When they're scared of Kentucky Fried Chicken improving American images of Iran, how scared are they going to be of Obama? They're very scared of it.
So this is why we don't have Kentucky Fried Chicken in Israel?
Well, we have Prime Minister Netanyahu, so our relations with America is in very good hands. I wish there was a sarcastic emoji I could use right now, but I can't.
Meir Javedanfar, thank you very much. Always a pleasure. Ali, you're staying here with me. And